Greetings and welcome to my channel. My name is Naima and I help females become women. I also help thought leaders and pioneers, thought leaders, and visionaries come out of hiding with their distinct work and bring it forth in a powerful way. This is a anyway. So I'm a former business coach. I was a business coach for about 7 years and built a successful seven-figure company online. I have great experience in the transformation space. And so that's just a little bit of an intro if you're new here. Today, I'm going to be discussing becoming a woman, integrating the raw material of you to become true and live deeply fulfilled. I am outside because it feels good to me. I'm at my health club. I'm sitting in front of a pool. There are people swimming. There's public transportation right outside these walls. And so you're going to hear those elements as we're here today. I also have notes that I may be looking down at while I'm here. And so there that is. So if you are a female, meaning you were born female and you have struggled with depression, feeling like you're going crazy. Um, Maybe you have all the things that's supposed to make you happy, and yet you're still deeply unfulfilled, or even have a steady low grade of depression. If you have been unable to manifest things that you feel like you really want, and maybe you've been doing all the right things, you consider yourself a positive person, and yet still you're unable to have things that are deeply fulfilling, perhaps bring forth work that's meaningful to you, that's heartfelt for you, that's purposeful for you, um, and you're unsure what's going on with yourself. I'm here to share with you that it's highly likely that while you may have done all the things that society says will bring you success and deep fulfillment, it's very possible that, yes, you are female, but you are not a woman. Okay. And so I founded my company legally, legally incorporated here in California, Academy for Womanhood, because I saw in myself, I saw in the women I had worked with up until that time, I saw in my family, I saw just looking out in the world the problems with the woman, the female herself, and the female in relation to everything that constructs her life. That many of us, while we were doing many of the things that's supposed to make us a woman, like give birth to children, marry males, get jobs, get our education, we were still suffering quietly. And so I incorporated my company and also began an incredibly inner world of transformation to becoming whole. And so my goal here with today's video, and really my entire life, has been dedicated to, one, becoming whole within myself, and then supporting women and walking the gauntlet, trudging the gauntlet, committing to the gauntlet of becoming whole, of becoming a woman, which is the essential root of that is trudging through her own unconscious self. And so beneath this video, I'm streaming simultaneously on both YouTube and Facebook. So you may see me talking in different, like this, like that. I have placed resources beneath both of these videos, and you just flow with the one that intuitively calls to you. You know how that is. You see something, you're like, "Ooh, that speaks to me," and that is one of those subtle ways of really listening to yourself. So thank you so much for being here. Again, if you are looking to become whole and live deeply fulfilled and true, stick around, subscribe to the channel, send women here, send men here. Please share this material. Okay. I myself have created space for myself. Anyway, let me pull back and be mindful. I have less than an hour to be here. Okay, so the title today is Becoming a Woman, integrating the raw material of you to become true and live deeply fulfilled. The resource that I'm going to be referencing from today is an article, which again is beneath this video for you to go to, and it's titled um, Emma Young, Marie Louise von Franz, and the Holy Grail, Carl Jung Depth Psychology. So I'm going to give like a quick background just to help give you some context, but anything you want to go further into, you can go further into. So Carl Jung is what some may call the grandfather or the pioneer of depth psychology, of the shadow world, the inner world, the collective unconscious, the personal unconscious of humanity, and the necessity of each and every one of us becoming intimate with our unconscious, integrating our unconscious so that we can be whole and live deeply satisfying, deeply fulfilling personal lives. And Carl Jung was married, and he had 5 children with his wife. And his wife actually funded him. And his wife died, and she also was a great researcher. One of the project, and I'm giving you context here. This will come together in helping this whole process of becoming a woman. She herself, for 30 years, was researching the Holy Grail and the great, the myth of the Holy Grail, the legend of the Holy Grail, and she died without ever publishing her work, without ever bringing it forth. And well, she had 5 kids, so she was a busy woman, right? Still, she was researching. And so I'm going to be talking, the way I move through the world, the way I share, the way I talk is very deep and nuanced. Okay, so you will, depending on your level of hearing, you will hear me very deeply, or you will learn to begin to hear very deeply, which will help you in living very deeply, understanding yourself very deeply, so you can choose more holistically in a way that serves you as a woman. And I'm going to be juxtaposing this story that I'm sharing with Carl Jung, his wife, and the woman I'm going to share alongside the Virgin Mary story. And I use these stories just to help us to go deeper into this, okay, to help us to go deeper into our inner worlds, and understanding why we move, why we're compelled the way we are, why we even rebel the way we do, why we have these emotions that we feel them deeply, but maybe we reject them, or we don't have a chance to work through them because of the tightly wound relationships we're in, the tightly wound complexes that we're in. And so I'm going to juxtapose these stories to help make sense of a woman and the value and the necessity of woman, of femininity, of the womb, of you as a woman listening to me, and for any man who will listen to me, starting to have such a deep regard, which we teach you to have regard for, frankly, in our quality of presence and our awareness of ourselves, the great honor and value of woman. So today, 2022, we talk about the shadow. Why we don't know where it came from. It's just talked about. The unconscious is a word that's just slung around. We see it on the internet. Most of us don't have understanding of its origination, how the word was coined, the toiling and the suffering and the going crazy, going mad that occurred inside of Carl Jung, that occurred inside of even Freud, because Freud very much influenced Jung. That allowed him to bring forth that work. Okay, has come through human beings, and Carl Jung was hard to understand by many during his time. It was very hard to understand. Um, he There's an interview that's known where in his 50s he was being interviewed in front of a crowd. He has written many books and essays and articles, and the interviewer asked him a question, and kept asking these questions that uh, uh, people seem to still the audience seemed to still be having a hard time with. And at one point, Carl Jung chuckled and he just looked at the audience and was like, "I'm sorry, but you're going to have to read my books. I know they're thick," right? And it was expressing how he was difficult to understand. And you're going to have to forge yourself through my books. Now, here comes when Carl Jung is in his 50s, he meets a woman, an 18-year-old woman named Marie Louise von France. Okay. Marie Louise von France. And again, there's an article here to share with you. Now, at this time, Carl Jung already has 5 children. He's married, and he has been doing this depth psychology for decades. He's known in the way that he's known in Switzerland and other European countries, I think by this time around the world. And Marie Louise von France understands him the way no other woman outside of his wife knows him. Perhaps even his wife doesn't know him to this degree. However, Marie Louise von France comes to know Jung, devotes her life to depth psychology. She never gives birth to children. She never marries, and she becomes his most devout disciple. She then, so in juxtaposing this against the Virgin Mary story and how, according to the myth and the legend of Virgin Mary, she never actually has sex with a human being. And she becomes endowed with this knowledge of the kingdom. Okay. She then gives birth here. This is to help us understand the inner workings of the womb of a woman. The womb of a woman. And the different ways that the womb of a woman gives birth to knowledge. Okay. And then a resource I also share underneath this video is an interview with Atkins. You guys remember, maybe you will. You click on the video. She was interviewed on the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Now, that's a modern day podcast called Dear Future Wifey. And in there, she talks about, very quickly, but it's just a great interview, about the womb is not only to give birth to children, that the womb of a woman gives birth to purpose. Okay, so just as Virgin Mary, who never had sex with a man, her birthing, which is symbolic, Jesus is symbolic of knowledge of the kingdom. Okay, it came through a woman. It could not happen without coming through a woman. Similarly with Carl Jung, here he is, he's written all these books, all this knowledge. He's gone through all this suffering and inner struggle. It is well documented that he had a breakdown after his break from Freud. He had a breakdown. He went into isolation. And this is where his work about the unconscious really started to ferment and come into fruition. And while he had written all these books and he had given all these talks and he had written all these papers, his work still had not permeated humanity until he downloaded that into Marie Louise von France, who had not given birth to children, who never gave birth to children, who never married, and became his greatest disciple, and who then simplified and birthed it through female language, through her womb, through her awareness, then brought it to humanity in the way that they can then take it on and receive it. Now, everybody who studies Jung, all the Carl Jung analysts, all the people who have studied Jung, to know Jung is to know Marie Louise von France. She is the one to bring it forth, woman, okay? Now, That is to help us to begin to understand our places as women in supporting powerful visionary men, and that our only place is not only to give birth to children. It is one place because remember, his wife funded him. His wife is where he actually gave birth to children. We don't even, I mean, I don't, right? Others may, but we don't even really know about what his children have done. I don't. I'm not saying they didn't do anything, but what I'm saying is, while he did give birth to children, while he did marry, the work that we know as humans, his pioneering work, his visionary work, was birthed and brought forth into the world through his helper of a woman in her womb who did not give birth to children, who did not marry. Okay. So I share that for two reasons. One, for the women who, like me, now I'm going to bring myself into this equation because you use whatever story, mythology, experience, whatever that helps you give birth to what you know. Please give me a moment to speak so that I can touch the women who will hear me, who this specifically my place helps support and move you through your existence. I am a woman who I have never felt the call to give birth to children. I think women children are the women who are wanted to be a mother, who hunger to give birth to children. You know, Elizabeth Gilbert, the writer of Eat, Pray, Love, you guys know the book that was turned into a movie, and she wrote gorgeous books. She said there are three types of women. She said the women who are meant to give birth to children, women who are meant to be great aunts and other caretakers, and women who, what was the third one? Who shouldn't go anywhere near children. And so I'm a wonderful aunt. I have a niece and nephew, and I love being an aunt. And so I feel similarly that women who have, since they were children, have been like, I cannot wait to be a mom. So when there's doubt about if you should be a mother, when there's, I'm thinking about it and maybe, and that kind of a thing, I don't think it's not deeply in the heart of her to give birth. And yet those women, we have purpose in us that will not quit. Okay. Oftentimes it is either to house the work of in unison with the man, okay, unifying with that right man. And this is another thing that Essence talks about. She talks about waiting. And one of the anyway, I love doing these videos because I get to hear myself talk. And in my last live stream, you can go back and look at it. I talked about how much of my life has felt like waiting. I've been a married woman. Like Essence, she's been married. She's divorced. I have dated. And I have dated with great awareness. Quietly, I never told the men this, but I knew that they were not the man for me. And many of you know what I mean, right? That there is a very specific man for me to do purpose work with. How many of you know what I'm talking about? I'd like for you guys to talk to me too. This has changed. This has changed, and yeah, they will come. It's here. I feel it. That there's a great man to do purpose work with, and there's also purpose within you, and it's distinct. It's distinct work, and the commitment it takes to sacrifice and not be distracted by. And I love that she talked about this, not being distracted by I think she called it what did she call it? Anyway, a replacement, just any man. There's so much pressure. You better get a man. You better get a man. You ain't good enough. Where your man at? Where your man at? In this modern world where people are so disconnected from the core of who they are. I have been guilty of this. Where your man at? So many of us, what we do, we go find a male to fill that because, dear God, we don't want to go to another Christmas party. We don't want to have another conversation with our mother, this person. We don't even want to come out on the internet with our purpose work because where your man at? Where you? And then you get one, you get married because you need to be able to say you have a husband. So you fill yourself up distracted by the man you know is not for you. You have children who then become burdened because you were pressured into getting a man, giving birth to children. So then they live with that burden for the rest of their life, that they were not born out of purpose. They were born out of the pressure to comply. We see that all over the place, don't we? And I have felt this pressure very much so, especially being a woman over 40. You over, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And so much of what I have, and this is for years, and it got me on my quest because it was in me. I just didn't have language for it. Oh my God, this is so deep. This video does not even hardly begin to scratch the surface of what so many of us as humans, and let's bring it to women, are lacking in having the environment to really know who we are, to cultivate, to come to know who we truly are at deep levels. Okay, here we go. Another resource. I'm going to allow myself to flow here. Gabor Mate. Dr. Gabor Mate is a trauma specialist. I have shared one of his books down beneath this video. Hi, Mamai. Mamai said in the comments on YouTube, said, or you try to use your magic to make them the man. Ain't that the truth? You try to use your magic to make them the man, and they know they're not, and they start resenting you. Oh, that's another conversation. Dr. Gabor Mate, he wrote a book called When the Body Says No. He's currently on book tour right now because his most recent book has just come out, and it's called The Myth of Normal. But beneath the videos here, I put a link to his book. I didn't put a link, I just put the title so you can look it up. It's called When the Body Says No. And let me read something to you because perhaps this will speak to somebody. It says, when the body says no, the cost of hidden stress. And let me read to you what it says. Can a person literally die of loneliness? Is there a connection between the ability to express emotions and Alzheimer's disease? Is there such a thing as cancer personality? Drawing on deep scientific research and Dr. Gabor Mate's acclaimed clinical work, When the Body Says No provides the answers to critical questions about the mind-body link and the role that stress and our emotional makeup play in an array of common diseases such as arthritis, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, irritable bowel syndrome, and multiple sclerosis, with dozens of case studies and stories, including those of Louise Gehrig, Betty Ford, and Lance Armstrong. Gabor Mate reveals the 7 A's of healing, the principles of healing and prevention of illness from hidden stress. When the Body Says No, he talked about it in an interview I was watching. He said to the interviewer and to everybody listening, he said, where is the body saying no where you're not saying no? Where is the body saying no where you're not saying no? How many of us women, and we can, if I were to gather 10 random women from around the world and we were to sit in a closed door environment and talk about the different times our bodies told us no, and we ignored our bodies and continued. Our bodies told us no about a particular man. Our bodies told us no right before the wedding. Our bodies told us no before we had sex with him. Our bodies told us no when we were walking around in pain. How many of us have walked around in pain for years saying, but I got to take care of the kids. Oh, I have so much to do. Oh, I'm so busy. The pressure of modern living. How many of us have been guilty of that? Dr. Gabor Mate says, and the body says no. Where has your body told you no where you have not said no? And it makes me think of that song by India Ari called Get It Together. She says, and now your chest burns and your back aches from 15 years of holding the pain. Holding the pain. Now your chest burns, your back aches, it's showing up all over your face because you've been walking around holding the pain. Because the modern world tells you you're not a woman if you don't do this and that. You're not a woman if you don't move like this. You're not a woman if you don't act like this. You're not a woman. Meanwhile, the woman who's acting like society tells her she's supposed to act to be a woman doesn't even know who she is. The average woman who's walking around with kids, 3, 4, 5 kids, married, 40, 50 years old. Who are you? She'll say, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a pastor's wife, I'm a this. She'll give you titles. And you say, but who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And she doesn't know. So oh my God. Okay, this is where I'd like to go now. And it takes a while. So many of us, we are not with the men who have the capacity because they too are in this, oh, my arm, this modern world. Ooh. So I have for years been doing videos online. I'm saying that for those of you who may be here, you've only seen a few videos from me or you're here for the first time. I have been a mentor, coach in the transformation space since 2011. Like I've had paying clients since 2011. And I have run a business. I've matriculated through and have done what is exceptional in the coaching space for women and particularly for Black women. When I say exceptional, I mean the level of visibility and truthfulness that have come out with. And I'm going to tell you why I'm painting this because there's a new place also for me. And I like to give some context for people who are new here, and then also as a reminder for those of you who may have been watching for years. The truthfulness that women are becoming now. Actually, I'm really proud of what's happening now. Women are just saying, and a lot of it is like the negative dark because we don't. A lot of us don't have the structure that we need. We don't feel safe, and so we're kind of coming in this chaotic way. But I see why, and it's ultimately we're getting there, even if it doesn't look like it to folks who don't have clarity of sight. And so the level of truth that a lot of women are becoming, right, in a way, and the money that I have made that is very uncommon for Black women in the transformation space. And the reason why I've been able to do it is like Carl Jung, and like so many other pioneers, there's just so much breaking down of self. There is madness. You would not believe the level of going mad that I have endured behind closed doors. Uh, the walking through things that, it's like, how do you tell somebody to do this? You can't. They come to a place in their life where the door presents itself and they choose. That's how it actually goes, right? And it's their own pain, it's their own suffering, and the suffering brings you down to your knees where you have nothing left but to make a choice about which door will you choose, okay? And when you choose to go through the door, where you submit all of who you think you are, you give it all up and you give it all over. Okay. And when a woman is busy being a wife and a mom and doing all the things society tells her to do, getting her career, her education, she doesn't even have the space to submit, because goddamn, I got these kids, I got this husband, I got all these things, right? And that's when the fucking cancer shows up. That's when she has a fucking breakdown and she can't move no more. Okay, India Arie talked in an interview. She said, I couldn't even walk no more if I wanted to. And when you ignore your body, that's what happened. It breaks you down. Where you want to cook, but you can't. You want to walk, but you literally cannot get out the bed. And when you keep looking at yourself through the eyes of a man who is demanding, because he too suffers being under this patriarchal system, men cannot tell us. This is not against men. This is not against men. Men are wonderful. Absolutely, they are wonderful and needed, and the majority of them cannot see without the presence of a whole woman. They cannot see clearly without the presence of a whole woman. This is the confusion and the crossing of wires in this modern world where technology is supposed to save us. Artificial intelligence and the speeding up and the utility of things is supposed to save us. And this is why Carl Jung, with all of his masculine knowledge, all of his savior ability, with all the struggle that he had endured with God and all his might, that there could be no Jesus without the Virgin Mary. There could be no Carl Jung without him having the womb of Marie Louise and the cooperation of Marie Louise von Franz, who he was then able to give that over to, who then birthed his work out into the world for the masses, for humanity to today benefit from. This is why becoming a woman is the way for humanity to become whole. Integrating the rawness of a woman's pain, her having the space to be with herself, where she's either with a man who allows that, who has the capacity, or she remains single and creates that space for herself. Calling in people who allow her, who contemplate with her, allowing in people who have the capacity to be with her in exploration, in speaking out loud about these foreign places that she visits within herself. this knowledge that circulates itself in her womb, in her heart. Otherwise, what do? We get busy with trying to get a man. Get a man, girl. You better get a man, girl. You better go and get you a man, girl, because you ain't complete without a man, girl. A woman who doesn't know who she is and rushes to get a man just to fill the void that society says she better help him void will kill herself. She will kill the connection that she has just by walking around with a womb. So when I say integrating the raw material of you, woman hearing my voice, the raw material, when I say raw material, your pain is intelligence. The poor choices that you make and the consequence is intelligence. The thing that grabs your attention over and over and over again is intelligence. The questions, the song that just drops into your consciousness that doesn't seem to have a place. You ever be in your bathroom, you just got out the shower, you drying yourself, and this song just drop into your consciousness? You're like, where did this song come from? Where? And instead of moving on to the next thing, because you got to go cook, you got to go do that, you pause and you actually play the song through your head. And this happened to me the other day. It happens all the time with me. A song will drop in, and then instead of that song, I wonder and going back, I'll sit and I'll play. So the other day, oh Lord, it was two songs. The one song that immediately came to mind is "It Ain't No Fun If the Homies Can't Have None." And the specific verse that came through was Corrupt song. Now, first of all, I ain't listened to Snoop. I haven't listened to this song in over a decade. I can't even remember the last time I listened to this song. And the words that specifically came that called my attention was when Corrupt said, "If I ever gave a fuck about a bitch, I'd always be broke. I never have no motherfucking endo to smoke." Okay? Now that's it right there. And I started analyzing that. If Corrupt gave a fuck about a bitch, I'd always be broke. So, translation, if I care about her, I'm not going to have any money. Because if I care about her, I'm going to want to provide for her. If I care about her, I'm going to want to give to her. I'm going to want to give her all my money. I'm going to want to take care of her. I'm going to want to provide for her. If Corrupt gave a fuck about a bitch, I'd always be broke. I'd never have no motherfucking endo to smoke. And so I've been in this place of really understanding men at deeper levels beyond they just want sex and respect and food. Really? Okay. Give a man just respect. And what does that mean? Right? Because every man is different, right? Respect, food, and sex, and see how personally fulfilled he is with you. Right? So I want to understand a deeper level. Right? And so my interpretation of that is the dark side of what comes out of a man when he's afraid to love. The dark side of what comes out of a man when he doesn't know how to love. And that's the man. What about the woman? What's the dark side that comes out of her when she's afraid to love? Anyway, I went deeper off into that. But I asked somebody, a woman who I know, you ever like have a song just drops into your head that you haven't heard in decades or years, and you ask yourself, what is this song about? And play the song in your head and analyze it. She was like, well, the song does come, but I don't ask myself that question and I don't pay attention. Right? This is also a woman who has three material. The raw. I'm gonna go here in like 10 minutes or so because I want to go get in the jacuzzi for a minute. So let me say this in closing. One, please share this video. Tell people to subscribe. Now I am getting my needs met. So while I have built a 7-figure business online and I'm aware of the structures that's required and the truth that's required, even the femininity, even with all the masculine functions in myself that I have used to create financial abundance and the structures that I needed and the containers that I needed. I'm no longer interested in investing so much of the use of my faculties in um, masculine my masculine abilities because they're in us. Women have, listen, all these single mothers running around here, even a mother who's married, a wife, running a home, that's masculine. Makes me think of this man who's about, he want a wife that does this with the children, has this on, and he wanted to rest, and all the women in the comments was like, how's she gonna rest if she doing all that? That's masculine, right? Anyway, um, with the space that I've created for myself over the last several months, it has been so deeply nourishing, so deeply necessary, so deeply home, and I'm staying here. I'm staying here. So, if you're a man listening to this and you believe that you're just called to me, reach out. I'm available for the man who has the capacity to provide the structure, the quality of presence to support me in helping females become women. And also working with pioneers and visionaries who have distinct work, the work that only they have, like Carl Jung had the work that only he had to bring forth, and supporting me. It is so necessary now that I have the masculine presence to support me so that I can be the woman that I am. So, one of the things that I'd like to do, and I'm going to put it out there, and we'll see what comes of it. One of the things that I'd like to do is have a Christmas gathering in Los Angeles. I'd like a small group it'd be great if it's co ed, and great if it's just women, where we have a completely comfortable, spacious, safe environment to contemplate together, to be soft and feminine together, to work with the raw material of you, the raw material of you. For years, I have allowed myself to express the deeper unconscious elements of myself in life, like living out here in the world, and also bringing that on camera, bringing that to my business so that I become more illuminated, so that I'm more true. It is so important to me to be true, regardless of what it looks like, regardless of what people say about it, and learning to withstand the judgment, even the judgment that comes from my own inner animus, which, by the way, is the spirit. The anima. Carl Jung talks about the inner anima and the inner animus in both man and woman. The inner anima is the soul. The inner animus is the soul. Is the spirit, and is typically the masculine voice inside of the man and the woman, and the anima is the inner female inside of the man and the woman. So the soul is the anima, and the spirit is the animus. And oftentimes, the inner animus in a woman will criticize her for, especially when she's getting ready to bring her purpose work to the world. It will yell the part of you that's like, "Bitch, shut the fuck up," when you're ready to do a video on your purpose work. The voice in you that's like, ain't nobody trying to hear that shit. Ain't nobody watching your videos anyway. Shut up. You ain't got no degree. You ain't even got no man. You ain't got, that's the inner animus in a woman. Okay. So and this is why it's so important to actively, deliberately engage with your unconscious, actively, deliberately, in practice, engage with your imagination. And that is what I am looking at us to do for Christmas, sometime within the 2 weeks or so preceding Christmas, um, in Los Angeles, in a cozy space where there's fireplace, and dim lighting, and that feels good, and that's soft and spacious, and there's permission in the room. Ah, it is time for females to become women. And for those of us who have very distinct work to do in the world, who have very distinct work to do in the world, and you either have this is not you have this okay, right? It is to be birthed, and it will only be birthed when the environment is present for it to be birthed. So I'm going to be going live lots more. Um, Again, subscribe to the channel, like the video. It helps the algorithms because when you like it, it tells YouTube people like it. You share it. Have people tell people to watch it all the way through because that matters. Length of watch time. Share this channel. If you believe this should be spread more, spread it actively. Click the share. Um, It is so time for the feminine qualities of nurturing, of patience, of loving, slowing down, softness, being present, being fully present with your body, being fully present with your emotions, letting yourself be sensitive. And I know for so many of us, we don't feel safe enough to be sensitive. We don't feel safe enough to be sensitive. And I so understand. I so understand, and I understand why you withdraw. I understand why you hide. I get it. I do, and I ask you that in that space, you carve out time in your home, space in your home where it's just you, and you get to be soft, and make sure you're not rushing from something, and make sure you're not having to rush to something thereafter when you're done. And it's also why it's so important to me to create these spaces. It's why the Academy for Womanhood was born. It's why so many of the spaces that I have created in my retreats over the years, which weren't even like the best that they could be, I'm looking now to create the best, by me having my own quality of presence, um, and having the support, having the presence of the right men, even just having the structure in place. And it's just so time, and I'm so happy to be in this place within myself, and allowing myself to submit in the ways that are necessary for us to really be with ourselves and tell the next truth for ourselves, whatever is the next truth for you, because we're not all in the same place, and that's absolutely okay. Um, and still allowing permission in yourself, allowing space in yourself, allowing truth telling in yourself, allowing love, allowing sensitivity, allowing, even if you don't see anybody else talking about it or saying it, if it's true in you, it's true, and that's enough. That's more than enough. When it's true in you, it's true, and allowing yourself to explore that. And and it's why I understand why so much of the dark, you know, uh, 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 the so much of what men are calling just mad at women, and um, she masculine, and and just this anger at women, and so many women they're separating themselves from men, not because they want to be independent, and no, we're not around here just being like fuck men because that's just true fundamentally for us. So many of us have rushed to get married. We have rushed to hurry up and have kids. And in that, we've been so lonely. In the midst of we don't even are. We have felt so unseen, so unmet in the deepest parts of ourselves. And you cannot live into 40, 45, and 50 years old and think you're going to be a vital, joyful, juicy, alive woman who's able to be the help that your man needs when you are unmet, when you are unseen, when your husband don't even know you. I was a married woman, had all the things that a woman is supposed to want and need to build a happy home, and he didn't even know me. I didn't know myself. The space wasn't there. We don't live in a society that encourages and applauds you for getting to know yourself, that applauds you for getting chaotic, for exploring yourself. So, you know what women have done? Fuck this marriage. Y'all don't want to see me. You want to force this down my throat around who I'm supposed to be and what I am. You don't even see me in this marriage. I'm sick. I'm tired. My back hurt. You don't appreciate what I'm doing. She collapses. Fuck this shit. They start making their own money. They traveling all over the world. And what's happening? They're creating their own spaces. They're discovering what's true for them. They're falling in love in foreign countries because they're feeling safe, because they're creating their own safety. They're creating their own environments. They're creating their own love. They're creating their own joy. We're going about it in aggressive, forceful ways because the men in our lives are refusing, because they are, as Carl Jung talks about, fighting at war with their own inner anima. They're afraid of the feminine within themselves. We live in a society that shames men for feeling, that shames them for engaging in what Carl Jung calls the feeling function. Nigga, you feeling, nigga, you a bitch, nigga. Excuse me. You a bitch, nigga. Running around here like a woman, nigga. So what do? He pushes that shit down. Then he becomes the dark masculine. Running around here, macho as fuck. Nigga, hella macho. Macho. Oh, oh God, that false masculine crying behind closed doors. Macho as fuck. He make all the money. He'll have a homes. He'll be fucking multiple women. He cannot feel. So he's not feeling the women who he's with. I watched a podcast also on the Dear Future Wifey podcast. He interviewed a man who's been married for 19 years. Black man. He was on this podcast, so wise. Of course, he's an older man now, right? So wise, so desirable sounding, so much of a divine masculine man. And you know what this man said? I've been married to my wife for 19 years, and I just started feeling her 2 years ago, which means for 17 years, and he talked about this, my wife would fall out on the kitchen floor crying. My wife would complain about how that marriage lasted because that woman suffered in it for 17 years. How many women do you know gonna suffer? Well, a lot do, right? But how is that what is that how this is supposed to go? Will we suffer with a man for 17 years of our life where he may or may not begin to feel us, see us, connect with us at deep levels? He told the story on the podcast about how he used to be when his wife would get emotional and crying to him about how come you're not this and why it isn't. He would be like, leave, be like, when you get yourself together, then maybe we'll talk. This black man said this on the podcast, okay? That's how he used to be in the marriage. And he said one day, the same thing was happening. He was in the kitchen with his wife. And she fussing, crying about something. Why you don't do this? How come I gotta keep asking for that? Woody wood, this, and that. And he said something just had him start walking to his wife with he said the spirit, of course, spirit of God, because this Dear Future Wifey podcast is a Christian man, and it's all about Christ and loving your wife as Christ loves the church, etc. And he said he just started walking to his wife, and he said he just started crying, crying, crying. He said him and his wife fell to the kitchen floor together and was crying. He said at the 17 years of marriage, that was the first time he saw his wife. Now, this man said this publicly. How many women are in marriages right now where their husband don't see them, don't know them? Meanwhile, she cooking and cleaning and fucking pussy dry and came. I had a client who had 3 kids, was married. She was on her second marriage. She said she had been fucking for years. Wife, mother, had never even come. You know the statistics of the number of women married ain't even coming? They not even coming. They don't even know what an orgasm feel like. Meanwhile, on the surface, they looking like a good woman because they married, they got children. I'm not saying that our job is to come forward and save the men. What I am saying is, oftentimes, a man does not clarify in his sight. He does not clarify in thought until he's in the presence of a woman. Now, he may fight her presence, he may fight her words, he may fight, and his dark masculine may reject her, he may be unable to see her, and yet she impacts him. And so many of us we are have a duty to ourselves, our future, our children, our bodies, to require that we come home to ourselves and integrate the raw material of our current existence, the raw material of our past that's showing up in our right now, that's showing up in our body, that's showing up in our emotions that we reject. Because when we look at ourselves through the masculine lens, they will tell you, like that black man who had been married to his wife for 17 years, when you get that feeling shit together, then maybe we can talk. When you get over that emotional shit, then maybe we can talk. The Academy for Womanhood. Okay, I'm gonna go. I got just a little while to jump in this jacuzzi real quick. Thank you guys for being here. Hello, Mamai. Hello, Rochelle. Thank you for your comment. Like the video, share it, please share. There's so much more to come. Um, I am a woman and I'm supporting women. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time.